Hello there, my IT consultants and government workers. My name is whatever you want it to be, and I'm here with another fantastic YouTube video for your viewing pleasure. We're going to be playing Front Office Football 9 by Solsysmic Software. All said and done, I personally believe this is probably one of the best American football sports simulations on the market right now. All said and done, I really enjoy how it plays, and this is a terrible intro, so who cares? Let's get into it. All said and done, I do have a decent amount of experience in this, so I'd like to show you how I like playing this game, how I find it to make it effective, and how I have fun with it. So let's get into it. Let's make a new game. All said and done, we'll just make this front office at the starting year 2024 because that's the year that we are currently in. Could be using the front office player file because that basically imports all of real life players that we have. We'll continue that. So we're going to begin with the players on the team. Not going to be doing a fantasy draft or a preference draft, anything like that, which you can do just like in Madden, for example. We'll continue with that. Yeah, with no draft players, we signed the teams based on in-game supplied player file, which is we got the football front office player file. So we'll have those default rosters. I'm going to use default team assignments as well. Again, I'm going to be linking a video in the description of how you want to upload logos. This is just going to be a basic out-of-the-box experience, so no like imported logos, imported team names, because unfortunately this game does not have a license. But again, that doesn't stop you from importing your own logos if you'd so wish. So we will continue with this with the default team assignments. We will not be using a stored quarterback, so that's if you want like Bart Starr, like Roger Staubach on your real life team. Now, you can do that, or you can assign the historic teams as well. So if I hit this, assign the historic teams, Bart Starr will be on the Hackers, or the equivalent of the Packers, and Roger Staubach will be on the equivalent of the Cowboys. But we're not going to be doing that because we're going to be using real life players. So, because yeah, game will generate quarterbacks from the chosen game player file. So we will continue that. Use full X Factor when creating raiders for your file. I believe the X Factor are like extra like boosts to players who already exist in the player file. So like players who are already good have that little extra boost to ensure that they're good. I do like keeping and tracking the scouted ratings because it allows you to show progression over time. And I like keeping economics on when it comes to determining attendance because you should be able to run a good franchise financially if you want people to show up to your games. And we will continue there. I'm going to show how I like setting up a GM style where basically I control the roster, I control who plays, I control where people play. But I do not call plays because I hire a staff to do that. And it's more fun to have your staff come in, bring in their sort of philosophy, their playbooks, because you can get really in depth in this game, but you can also curate it to how you want to play it. All said and done, and we'll get into that as we get into play. So we'll not check this. I'll be checking in the settings eventually as we start, though. I'm not going to change my injury settings. As you can see, these settings can be changed at any time. Injury is 100 is default, 200 is to be twice the default. So we're just going to have the regular 100% for combine accuracy, 100 for injury settings, just so injuries happen, but they're not too prevalent. And we will create the team. Sitting at it is right now, as of course this game doesn't have a license. They don't really use the names. Again, you can import the names if you so wish. Again, this is going to be a box standard experience, basically when you buy what you get. But you again know that you can import logos, you can import names, you can import what you want when it comes to this game. It's just out of the box. It doesn't come like Madden with everything loaded up for you. When it comes to this game, though, what we are going to be playing as, who we are going to be playing as, not going to be my hometown team, unfortunately, but we're going to be taking away the Carolina Panthers, or as they are in this game, the Carolina Hillcats, because Tar Heels, I'm assuming, in North Carolina. So that's an easy name. As you can see, like most of these names sort of make sense to what they are, or like the team name in real life, like the Norsemen, Mocats, Bruins, it's just bear and things, Cyberhawks, Gold Rush, so like you generally can understand what teams are what. They do a pretty decent job when it comes to that out of the box. Denver Drovers, because you can't use Broncos. Fountainheads instead of Chiefs. Bandits instead of Raiders. Lightning instead of Chargers. Or Lone Stars instead of Cowboys. So yeah, I mean, we're going to be doing the Carolina Panthers in the NC South. We're going to be the National Foosball League. Because again, this is not a fully licensed game. You can make it football league if you want, but I think foosball is funny. So we'll begin the preseason in 2024 with the Carolina Hillcats. And you can see this game is really fast. I really do enjoy this game because you can really just fly through a season if you so wish. Yeah, I think one of the biggest complaints when it comes to this game is the UI. Hopefully, this playthrough will help you navigate the new UI, see how things are laid out when it comes to the buttons. First thing I'm going to be doing though is going to the AI settings down here in the bottom right corner. All said and done, popping this up. This is your game settings of how you can control how things are played. So we see here we have the entering settings, combat accuracy, so you can change those as you had before. You can also change the salary cap increase if, say, you want more inflation, higher contracts, that's a wish. It does naturally increase as the TV deals get made in the off season, so it will increase time over time. Yeah, you must save your new settings choices. We also have the AI settings as well. This is basically when you sim what the AI will control for you. So I personally like having AI handles team playbook and AI handles team game plan. So pretty much that means that the AI or the coaches, my staff here, is going to control the playbook and also the game plan of how that playbook is implemented within my team. Everything else I will control though. Major roster decisions, minor roster decisions, whole 9 yards will be my control. I'll also handle the depth chart and the off-season functions as well when it comes to the GM. I'm going to continue here. So as you can see, we have our staff here of what we have. We have Dave Canales, Brad Isaac, E.G. DeVario, Harold Godwin, Kevin King as our staff. They have certain styles and playbooks. We have Smash Mouth as ours. You can see when it comes to Brad Isaac, our office coordinator, his ratings over here. You can hover over and see what these specific tooltips will do. So you can see player development. It's how the coach handles young players when they reach their potential skill level when it comes to young player. Motivation, how well a player motivates on game day. How they prevent committing penalties. All said and done. I'm going to... And that's the problem, I guess, with doing live recording. You can get interrupted. So back in my train of thought when it comes to our coaching staff, you can see we have Smash Mouth, which will then go to our strategy right here. That will correlate to our playbook here as well. So you can really see, you can go really in depth with your play selection on how you want. It's really in depth when it comes to this game. And we'll get into this sort of stuff as you can, if you want to, you can do full selections for your defense. You can generate new game plans. I really enjoy having the AI control this because it is very, very overwhelming at first when you get into this game, trying to assign your own plays, trying to call your own plays, trying to set blitzing assignments, trying to set assignments for people. And it's easier when the AI handles it. Or, well, it's not really the AI, I consider it more my coaches handling. Because in real life, the GM's not the one making the play calls or setting up blitzing assignments. That's the guys we hired to do. So you can see when it comes to the Carolina Panthers coaching staff in real life, we can argue about it, but they have decent synergy when it comes to the groups that they really mainly focus on. Groups right here when it comes to the coaches are mainly the guys that they focus on either developing or working with that see the most success. Ironically, when it comes to Brad Idzik, Smash Mouth, personally for me is more of a running formation, which if you look at the skill positions over here, we do not have the best running situation. I mean, Chupa Hubbard is obviously pretty good. But yeah, so that's a little staff review. That's the little thing when it comes to our AI settings and what we're going to set there and what the expectations are. Basically, this is the best AI settings to have basically the best GM experience. Your coaching staff will handle the playbook, handle the team game plan. You don't really have to think about those. You have more to think about drafting, offseason signings, assignments, where players are playing, and understanding those sort of concepts. We'll look over the roster real quick when it comes to Carolina. We probably won't get into the actual season, maybe play through the preseason all said and done. Because this is just going to be a generalized overview of what we got going on here. Probably put a little bit more effort into these videos as we go on, put a little bit more editing into them. But this is my first attempt at YouTube, so we'll be working with it. As you can see, when it comes to the roster, again, we're at team overview right here is what we loaded into. You're going to go to team roster if you want to see your full roster. You can customize, see any other people that you want, any other teams that you want. Say if you want to see the Lions roster right here, you can do that. We can go up to Carolina and see ours right here as well. You can also see basic information, contracts. You can see personality ratings as well, which we'll get into and what are good things, what are good bad things. Injury, you can see people's specific injury issues, if they're full strength, how they are. We'll see that in future episodes as players get injured. You can see quarterback ratings, skill position ratings, and that will cover every single position rather than going, if you go into depth charts, go to skill, you only see skill positions here. You can't see your quarterback. So if you want to get a full overview of, say, my skill position ratings, and I want to see how well my quarterback runs. So my quarterback, see, he has 60 speed. You don't see that on their actual ratings chart here. So Andy Dalton having 60 speed is kind of interesting. I don't think Andy Dalton's probably not faster than. Actually, you can check their split right here. 470 in the 40-yard. Bryce Young, did he run? They didn't. I don't. Did they really run the same 40? I'd have to look. I'm gonna have to look it up in post. That's kind of crazy. They ran both the 4.72 in the thing that might actually just be the same. Who knows? But yeah, so you can check those sort of things when it comes to ratings here. Same with blocking special teams. They'll show you every single person's blocking and ability to play special teams as well. So yeah, basic information. You can also see contracts here too, so you can sort of a big thing when it comes to this game is planning ahead, making sure your people sign, your players are signed, and understanding that. Yeah, let's go over the roster real quick of what we have when it comes to the Hillcats. Um, as you know, when it comes to quarterback, we'll just filter position to. You can also again, yeah, filter any position you want as well here. We'll go with the quarterbacks. We mainly Um, as it is 2024, this is post 2023 Bryce Young not being the stud he really should have been. All said and done, he probably is not going to be our guy in the future. Granted, he is on the first round, first overall pick cap cost, all said and done, so he is 6 mil guaranteed for the next 3 years. So probably will not release him. See if he can develop into something. Just because he's a 46 and this is not fully full does not mean that he cannot be a good quarterback for us. This game is on a 0 to 100 rating scale, but as you might have been able to see in the basic information of everybody, it's not really on a 0 to 100 person scale. Because if you take a peek at this, if you're basically under a 25, you're not really playable. I'm going to be honest with you. This guy is not going to make our roster. Unfortunate Central Michigan fired up chips. But unfortunately, Mr. Incombe, you are not going to be making the roster because a 5 out of 7 is terrible. Is absolutely terrible. So, like, he is a linebacker here. Let's just compare him to Shaq Thompson, who is a 40 right here. You can see that his ratings are not 4 times better. A lot of these are up to 6 times better than what he is. So, and also you can see that this guy here, I'm pointing with my finger, but you can also see with my mouse, this guy has way better ratings than Thomas Incombe ever will. So just because a guy is a 40 does not mean that he can't be a starter. Just because a guy is a 30 right here, like Miles Sanders, doesn't mean that he can't be a starter. So just because you see a low rating, do not immediately throw the guy away. Doesn't mean you have to immediately release the guy. Um, but I will be a spoiler and say that these 3 guys probably are not going to be making the roster, be plugged out Carolina Panthers, unfortunately. Yeah, let's continue on looking at the quarterbacks, though. We have Bryce Young, Andy Dalton. I probably will start Bryce Young, though, to keep it consistent, see how he does for the first couple seasons. But again, we'll see how the preseason plays out, see how they do. Running back wise, we have Chuba Hubbard, Miles Sanders, and Jonathan Brooks as our top 3. Blackshear might make the roster all said and done. We're going to have to see how the preseason plays out. Fullback wise, we don't have a fullback. Don't think they really run it. Even though Smash Mouth, I kind of would enjoy a fullback. They probably use a 2 RB set. They use tight ends as their fullback, which I prefer running backs, but yeah, it really doesn't. It depends. You know how you really feel. Snow fullbacks, tight ends, which the Carolina Panthers in real life actually have a very interesting tight end room, which is very unheralded. But Jatavion Sanders, this man is going to be hopefully one of the next big things. And they actually have him pretty accurately scouted with a 64. Could be a great route runner for us. Can't really catch in traffic. So he's not going to be making in the middle sort of pass plays. Probably going to be more up the seam guy with good hands. Not really speed. Can't really block or pick the blitz up. Sorry. So he probably won't be the best fullback, but he can be a decent running, blocking tight end. Just actually a decent blocking tight end in future with decent hands. So this guy's actually be our tight end for the future for the most likely. Jordan Matthews doesn't have good blitz pickups. I probably don't want him as our fullback. Ian Thomas would actually might not be a bad fullback with his blitz pickup. Basically, blitz pickup is one of the most important things you want for your interior blockers. So that's basically your fullback, your running back, or your tight ends, because that's how they basically pick up blitzes when it comes to simulating. That's not the best way to explain it, but it's as you'll see, it's very important when it comes to blocking for non offensive lineman players. Let's continue on with our wide receivers. I have a very interesting wide receiver room. Obviously, Jonathan Mingo just got traded, I think either yesterday or 2 days ago at this point. Um, I am personally might explore that at the trade deadline, but in this game, he's not too bad. Um, he can really defeat jammers, so like he can get past. He can be a not really like a deep threat, but like a medium-sized threat. It's a good split end. Um, He's a split end here. Xavier Legette's probably gonna be our flanker, and then we have Phelan. Like we always have four guys on here who could be legitimate NFL caliber receivers, and then David Moore. um, Again, just because he's a 30 doesn't mean he can't do anything, but he's probably gonna be wide receiver 5 for us. Yeah, I mean not a bad wide receiver room, but again, nothing to knock your socks off here. I'm gonna go to center here. Oh my goodness, we have no center at all. We are probably gonna have to trade for center. Like that's one of the biggest weaknesses in real life for the Panthers is their offensive line is not good. As you can see, Robert Hunt is a 20-30 with 1 out of 2 run blocking. You wonder why Miles Sanders struggles and Chuba Hubbard struggles. They have no run blocking out of their guards. Their center right now, no run blocking. I don't even want to look at our tackles because they're actually good. So that's like the issue we have is that we have two pretty decent tackles in Iquanu, Ikem Iquanu. Like, look at this man. He's an absolute beast. Like, oh, just an absolute beast. Got him for 2 more years. He's going to cost so much money when we need to extend him eventually. And that's also said Taylor Moton's also pretty well as too. Western Michigan, let's go Broncos, my guy. 29 years old, little old, but still, he's on a cap out salary too. I forgot about that. So he's only making 1.4 mil, but he's going to cost an absolute boatload of money next year. So he might be on the trade block if anybody doesn't want him. And then we really have nobodies after them. I mean, Joshua Neiman, I don't really know. I know this guy's real, but I can't pronounce his name, unfortunately. He could maybe be something. He actually can sort of run block. I mean, Akima Kwanwu, Equinu. I'm so sorry. I'm so, Akeem can least block, and Taylor Moton can least block. Let's move on to our punter, Johnny Hecker, which I don't really, I mean, I understand why, but like, I don't get why he's 34. Why isn't he developed to a 56? He's not going to develop much more, so we might look out for a punter in the future just because he's so old. Kickers wise, this is Eddie Pinero slander. He's not this bad in real life. Like, come on, man. That's bad. Yeah, so we'll probably get new special teams. Defensive ends, not too bad. All said and obviously we don't have Brian Burns anymore because he is with the Giants. But we do have Derek Brown coming off the edge. He's really solid off the right end. Then we have Alshon Robinson too. Journeyman. Obviously there's no statistics because everything loaded in from the past. But it is nice to see these fill up in the future. I was mainly going to his contract. He's on a pretty decent contract, all said and done. 1.2 this year with a 2-point bonus. And then he could be your release candidate if he gets too expensive and starts regressing as he gets a little bit older. Other than that, absolute Jags. None of these guys are going to be making the roster for the most part because we also have, I think, 75 people on this roster. Defensive tackles, we have Shy Tuttle. That is it. Terrible. Inside linebacker, Josie Jewell at 66. He's pretty decent. He usually is pretty decent in any saves I've ran too. 29. For the first 3 years, he's a pretty lockdown inside linebacker. Shaq Thompson's okay. Then other than that, we need some help, my guy. We need some help. They have Jadeveon Clowney as a strong side linebacker here. We could potentially change his position. That's not a thing you can do in this game. You can change players' positions as well. Obviously, there are caveats to that. His height is above average, and he should gain weight, which weight training you can do in the off season. So it might take some time. We'll probably keep him as a strong side linebacker. Cornerbacks, we'll go over here. You got J.C. Horn. He's an absolute dog. Three Castro Fields, Chow Smith Wade. We have some decent development cornerbacks, and we have a solid 1, 2, 3 all said and done. Michael Jackson, Dane Jackson. I thought they traded him for no, that was Dante Jackson for Deontay Jackson. I'm thinking Deontay Johnson. Sorry, I thought they traded Dane Jackson for Deontay Johnson, but they did not. Yeah, so then we have Jags after that. Absolutely terrible people. Safety Jordan Fuller is really good. Um, like crazy man-to-man and physical pass. I really enjoy him in this game. Can't diagnose the defense, which is the ability to correctly identify runs and passes, so as a assigned role each case. Though he does have the ratings to make it up. That if he can't guess the play, he can still do pretty well with it. Looking at it too, we have Sam Franklin, Nick Scott. They'll probably be our in-between free safeties and strong safeties. Long snapper, we have JJ Jansen. This is all pretty long snappers do. They're sort of a waste of a roster spot, all said and done, even though I believe they make your special teams units work a little bit better. I'm not personally sure on that. It's sometimes used to have one, sometimes it's not. Because you are not, I believe, forced to have one when it comes to your active roster here. So yeah, you're not forced to have one for your requirements. And we'll go over this when it comes to the preseason games before we start the games. But yeah, so we don't need a long snapper all said and done. Still going to have one. Unless we get a roster crunch, then I might cut him. But we'll see. All said and done. Let's go to our skill positions, overlooking all of that. Basically, the top one that we have potential is Ja'Tavion Sanders, and it's going to be Mingo. That's probably why we're not going to trade Mingo, because we don't really have anybody else that's young and developable just yet until we get to the draft. Liggett could maybe eventually turn into something. He just does not have really the passing or the catching ratings to make it work. Good endurance, so he'll be able to stay in the field a decent amount of time, but he doesn't have breakaway speed, has mid hands, can't really catch in traffic either. I don't really see like a spot for him that much. All right, let's do a general roster and overview for the Carolina Panthers. Let's do our little depth chart. They should have this already set up for us as we are heading into spring training. So what I'd like to do when I advance this game, this game is super fast. You can run through multiple seasons in an hour if you know what you're doing. You can also tailor this game how you want. You can watch games. You can pause games. You can again, watching the games isn't like Madden where you can like watch fully animated characters go face to face. Again, as you can see, it's a lot more Excel spreadsheet than Madden interactiveness. It's a lot more dots going across the field. If there's a Super Bowl, we'll probably eventually go into the play by play. Or if somebody wants to watch it, we'll probably watch a play by play eventually of some game. Yeah, but the most important thing when it comes to this game and knowing how to navigate is basically what I call the three bars. We have the bar up here, the bar up here, the bar over here. Knowing how these things work and how they're able to interact with each other is how you're able to navigate this absolute hellhole of a UI, to be honest with you. But again, as you watch, you'll eventually start working through seeing how things, tabs can go to tabs. Tabs can go to tabs. What am I talking about? Let's just dive into this. This little pencil right here, what you want to click on to see your day by day. This is basically your front office look. You get your news here. You'll get your player acquisition things. You can see your entire schedule here as well. You can simulate a day. You can check your playbook, which again, I mainly have the AI working on. Mainly have Smash Mouth. A lot of our run plays are option passes or runs on the Smash Mouth. But again, just because you have a Smash Mouth or offensive coordinator here doesn't mean your entire playbook is going to be Smash Mouth. This is why I like having AI control the playbook instead of just me throwing a bunch of Smash Mouth things in there. We do have alternative things, and if they don't work, you can just fire your coordinator and get a new guy who put it in a new system for you. So as you can see, our offense and our playbook this season is going to be mainly pass plays and RPOs with a little bit of runs all said and done. So mainly going to be pass heavy with a little bit of run plays. Defense, all said and done, we're running a 3-4 Eagle. So again, if we look at the depth charts up here, you can, again, depth charts, the main ones you're using is roster, depth charts, and then manage. Those are going to be the three main tabs you're going to be using this game to actually get through this game, manage your rosters, advance weeks, look at things, and also team overview to see your statistics, your starters, and how your overall season is going. Yeah, we'll go to the depth chart here. You can see with our defense, we are a 3-4 Eagle when it comes to our defense. So this will translate to our depth chart over here to a 3-4 Eagle counter. So how you want to set up your depth charts basically is I'm not going to say you need like full football knowledge to make this work, but you should have an understanding or a rationale of how football positions are. There's not wide receiver one, wide receiver two, wide receivers three, or like a pure slot receiver like there is in Madden. There is X's and R's and Z's and S's. And we can, so what's cool about this game is you go to strategy. Let's go to, it's actually about my point. Let's go to the skill positions here. Let's look at 1-1-3. We have Jonathan Mingo, Jatavion Sanders, Adam Thielen, Jonathan Brooks, and Deontay Johnson here. We have Jonathan Mingo as the X, Thielen as the Z. I want you to remember that. We're going to go to our strategy. Let's go to our playbook. We have a 1-1-3 right here, pass right here. We hover over this. It's going to show us the playbook that they would run. So in the 1-1-3, which if you don't know what a 1-1-3 is, we'll go back to skill. That is one running back, one tight end, three wideouts. Again, that's how it's going to break down. When you see this, the front is your running back, second is your tight end, and then third should be your wideouts, I believe. So like a 104 would be, if we go to our depth chart skill, 104, one running back, four wideouts. And so also we can see in our strategy over here that it shows a little diagram of what the routes are going to be ran. So you can see our X. I can't move the cursor. I'm pointing with my finger, but you see the X over here is doing, that's going to be our main route in red. We have R right here as well. Darn, I left it. But you can also see our priority right here is an X, and we right here. So you can see our X right here, and our X over here is red. That would be the primary receiver when it comes to it. And when we go to our 1-1-3, our X is Jonathan Mingo. So that means Jonathan Mingo is going to be the primary recipient of the pass in this formation. Therefore, you want to set up your rosters as such. You basically want your X receiver. Actually, that's kind of misinformation. There are fits that these players have that you're able to make what they fit the best. Like Deontay Johnson, he's an amazing route runner in real life. Not really in this game. He's good at looseness, good at speed right here. But he's mainly a slot archetype. He's 5'10", 183. He's not a big jump contester. He's not 6'2" like Mingo, who goes up, high points the ball, and gets it. He's mainly going to be your slot receiver. That's why he's a fit in the slot. If you go to strategy, we go to playbook, we go to the 1-1-3, you can see that Deontay Johnson is the R. He is the R in the 1-1-3 right here. That means that he is our slot receiver. You can usually think about it like this. Your X is going to be on the left side of the line. The R is going to be in your slot. The Z will be on the right. And the S will be your fourth. I call it like an in-between slot, but they usually be your fourth wide receiver in the four wideout sets. So in like the 104 over here, we can see the Z, the S is usually on the left side of the Z. When it comes to it, usually the Z is on post plays, deep pass plays, deep routes. So I usually like to have a tall physical receiver there. But usually your X is going to be getting the most targets because that's going to be your wideout number one. Or if like it's like a Monroe St. Brown, who's an amazing slot receiver, you could have him be the X in, say, this on 1-2-2 personnel. He can be the X here, but be an R in 1-1-3. You don't need to have him continually be the X in every single formation like they have Mingo here. You could totally customize this how you wish. Say like I want Thielen to be here in 2-2-1 because Thielen potentially is a better blocker instead of Jonathan Mingo. I don't know if that's actually true, but those are the things that you can customize. You need to work around. Same thing goes with running backs. You should also really take a peek at your strategy and see what the majority of your plays are in the given playbook that you have when it comes to assigning your offensive strategy. So you can see we have a lot of 1-1-3. We are a big 1-1-3 playbook. We have a lot of 1-2-2. Not much in the 1-3-1. Okay amount of 2-1-2 and a decent amount of 2-2-1. Not much 2-3-0. And those are both runs in an option pass. So that's when it comes to what we should be looking at when it comes to our playbook. Mainly our main starters, most of our targets will be coming out of the 1-1-3, 1-2-2, or 2-1-2. So we go over here to our skills. We look at all of these. You have to fill all of these out to be able to progress in the week, but we should know that our 113, 212, yeah, I believe 212 and then 221 are going to be our most impactful formations, along with our third down running back, who will be playing every third down as you substitute them in. So that's a good thing to know, that you have to fill all of these out, but know that you want your main guys, you want your main starters in these impactful formations that you have a lot of in your playbook. So again, 221, 212, and then 113. Mainly we are running out of the 113. That's what the majority of our playbooks are in. So the majority we're going to be seeing of Jonathan Mingo, Jatavian Sanders, Thielen, and then Brooks in this case compared to Hubbard. But we mainly have Hubbard in the 221 packages and the 212 packages, so it's not like Hubbard will not be playing, you know? So you can also auto set this up by coordinators. You can click these to not have the coordinator set. So let's say, for example, I think the coordinator already has it all set, but let's say I don't want them to change Thielen from here. I will click this right here, and we'll click this and see how it changed the 104. It didn't change Thielen. I unclick this. It changes Thielen right here. So that's if you want to like set this up your custom way, but you want to say, for example, what I do all the time is like I know my strategy. I have 221, I have 212, and I know my and 113. I'll set those three positions right here, lock them all in, do my thing here, and then just have the coordinator set everything else. Because I know for the most part that's like going to be the most impactful thing that's going to be coming up, or the most impactful play calls compared to the three sets that I know that we are mainly running out of. So all said and done, I'm not worried about this. We're going to be preseason, so everybody should be playing anyways. We'll get full work through anyways, and we'll do cuts after. Defense is sort of the same way as well. I want to explain this as well. Basically, your main two defensive starting sets are going to be your base 2 and your base 3. The third and long, base 4-5, short 0-1-2, and goal line. These are your non-starting defensive sets, is what I like to call them in this game. So as we go to the team, overview over here. This shows your basic starters right here. We can see that these starters here, Derek Brown, TJ Smith, Raymond Johnson, is the first line right here on the base 2. Because you can see over here on third and long, we have Nick Thurman. Nick Thurman's here, and Derek Brown is here as well. But Nick Thurman is not starting as our defensive right end because he's not on the base 2 or base 3. You can also double check this when it comes to your defense right here. Or sorry, your analyze. So we can see that these are your two basic starting positions when it comes to the 4-3. And it will show you what your basic lineup's going to be on. Your basic lineup be facing the offense. Again, this all is controlled by the AI, but it's good to look at this to see how your overall defense is set up. So you can see our defense right here. Mainly on the left side, we have a decent run defense. You can also change here. So yeah, choices change one position on your team's depth chart, so you can see the analysis too as well. So we can sub someone in if we want to. Let's say instead of having a strong side linebacker there, I want Deshaun Williams. And that will then change your overall, your power or your ability to match certain sort of sets. So we'll see here our zone coverage ability. Like these are our full abilities of this defense to do well in. Our zone coverage, our top 5th. I think we have a top 5th zone coverage. We have really good zone coverage, really good at physical coverage. Can't run defense worth a crap because of Shaq Thompson and Johnson over here as well. Yeah, so it's good to know that when it comes to that these are your two main starting sets out of wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 3. And again, that will then attribute to this. You should know that when you come out in 3 wide receiver sets and 2 wide receiver sets, which are mainly what most playbooks are in, you're mainly going to be having, well, depending on what you have, if it's like spread or if it's Elhard Perkins, it might depend. You're mainly going to be having 2 wide receiver sets and 3 wide receiver sets, So that's mainly what the defense will be facing. Those are who you're going to be, your starters are going to be. So usually how I like to set up my defense is I'll just go through down this line. So we'll start at defensive lineman here. We have a lot of defensive linemen. That is not an exaggeration. I'll simply say TJ Smith is terrible, and we will probably need to sign a free agent, which we'll probably do come next episode. Because let's look at just the basic defensive. Like, we can sign Mitch Otto right here. Hell, I'm just probably going to sign him right now. Undrafted 2024. I don't think he's a real person. I don't think any of these guys are actually real. But he is definitely better than Shy Tuttle and Smith. So we can't make it this time of the season. We can probably make it once preseason starts, but we're going to have to sign a defensive tackle because you can already see Mitch Otto. Oh my goodness. He is so much better than this guy here. Yeah. So all said and done, we have way too many linemen. A lot of these guys are going to go when we do roster cut downs, so don't worry about it. We probably have the most equitable starters with Derek Brown, Tuttle. I probably should explain this red stuff too. So you might have seen all this red across the screen right here. That is their endurance rating. That is their ability to stay on the field. We can see it right here, endurance. So it's the player's ability to maintain top performance play after play, particularly performance in defensive players, receivers, and running backs. So for the most part, endurance doesn't only affect quarterbacks. It sort of affects linemen and how often they need to be subbed out with their backups. Mainly affects wideouts and defensemen. Defensemen, when it comes to it, endurance, basically how often can they keep playing before getting subbed for a worse player. Like for in this sort of instance, Shy Tuttle is so much better than TJ Smith. We can obviously see that. The problem is Shy Tuttle is going to be starting in both base 2 and base 3. So he's going to be on basically the majority of sets. And then including this one, third and long was 0 to third. So that means in triple tight end sets, he's also going to be on the field. And then we don't have him here. But it's like if we added Tuttle in on short right here too, or sorry, base 4-5, now he's going to be playing every single set that has no wide receiver, one wide receiver, sorry, no wide receiver, one wide receiver if it's third and long. If it's 2-3, he's going to be starting regardless. And then if it's 4 or 5 wide receiver, he's going to be out there as well. That's way too much for a player to be playing day in, day out. So you do need to have a little bit of load management when it comes to it. So we have TJ Smith in here. And so now TJ Smith is a little bit too overworked from the back line. So we can put Shy Tuttle in here or here to then take the load off of TJ Smith because he has no endurance because he is terrible at the game of football. And it's not his fault. That's just the ratings that they gave him. So yeah, that's basically the defense. I think when it comes to it, like we can just hit coordinators for depth chart. Like that's how it's gonna be. Like we have the best. Like we do not have a good defense in general. Like the starters who are starting. We can't really change that. JC Horn is our quarterback one. Eventually, as we get into it, we'll get into it. This is more just like an over-encompassing video to really set the tone for how this game works and how we'll be working through it. Special teams is nothing too special. I usually do coordinator recommendations, and then basically I look through it and I'm like, does this make sense for these guys to be playing? You can also sort it by special teams as well. Like Adam Thielen probably would not be playing special teams because he is one of the starting wideouts. You probably wouldn't have this guy running gunner opportunities or running tackles on plays because he's also 33. So there's no reason for him to be playing special teams. But like Sam Franklin, for example, I think Sam Franklin is our starting safety, but there's no reason why he can't play special teams, you know? Sorry, because like his special teams rating is pretty good, you know? Decent special teams, decent tackling. All of a sudden, like he can make the work, so we can encourage it here. Like Jadeveon Clowney, I kind of agree. Probably shouldn't be playing special teams. Usually, sometimes you don't want your starters playing, but if it's like these mid guys, you really can have them play special teams, and it's not the biggest thing in the world. I just wouldn't have your super like I wouldn't have like you don't need a quant like Akeem on special teams. We don't need that. Jatavian Sanders, we can have him play special teams, maybe like get more play time to develop. JC Horn probably doesn't need to play special teams. This is the sort of thing that you can look through and I'll probably just do off camera. This is your general active roster. Some season by season statistics, really easy here when it comes like passing yards. Like this is like a quick way to look at it. This also you can activate and deactivate them as you so wish here. Even though it is easier with a right click, I would say once the season starts on your main roster screen, you can still deactivate or activate them here however you wish. You can also see how your active roster is sizing up to what you required for games. So like for example, we're going to need to sign another quarterback because we don't have enough quarterbacks to start the simulation. But there are some positions where you don't need someone like a fullback because you can substitute a fullback's position with a running back or a tight end, which is probably what we're gonna do. But you do need to have at least 3 backfield options available. So that means you either need to have like 2 running backs or a fullback, or 3 full running backs, or hell, 2 fullbacks and a running back. You need at least 3 backfields to make it work. Just like you need at least 17 skill positions, either running backs, fullbacks, tight ends, or wide receivers. Sorry, 10 to make the simulation, I say work, but go forward. So like, for example, we have more than enough offensive linemen. We have way too many defensive linemen. We have 10 defensive ends to the 2 required. So obviously some are going to have to go at some point. Going through that, that's basically the depth chart and how that works and how I like to work with it. Basically, we've gone over the strategy as well. Weight we'll eventually go over to when the settings come up in the off season. Again, these are a lot of things that you can dive in yourself and set yourself. Like you can, but again, we're mainly having the game plan be ran by our coaches. So they're the ones that once we get into it, they'll be the ones assigning who's going to be blitzing, who's going to be back into coverage. But again, you can see the customization that if you want to really get into football calling, working with this game, working with different things and different concepts, you can customize it how you wish. And we'll go over how ratings affect different things when it comes to draft, off-season, player evaluation, and hopefully as this series goes on, we can get a little bit more in depth on how things are. Because again, you can manage substitutes. Like for example, you can substitute starting quarterback when the gets too bad, when the margin's up, that sort of thing. Like there's way more customization than Madden. Of course, the visual fidelity is Madden, but there's a lot more customization when it comes to this. As we are nearing the end of this, because I think I'll do the full preseason games in the next episode, I kind of just want to get this out and get this up and see how this, I don't want to say does, but hopefully this is decently received. All said and done. And I think I'll still just work over these tabs and show you how they work. And again, you can get interrupted when doing a live recording. It's the most annoying part of doing this. But back on this, I think we're going to do, just as is coming to the end, just a little brief overview of what all these tabs are. And before we get, preseason will be next game, I think, or next episode, I believe. And we're just going to go over these tabs real quick. Scouting. This is a full overview of basically what your tendencies of your opponents are, or how your defense breakdown. Not the most interesting. You can also see it year by year. This gets more in depth as the seasons go on. There's not much to see because the season hasn't started, but we'll get into that probably season by season breakdown. Schedule shows basically your entire schedule. You can see previous schedules for every single team that you want. You can even show your exhibition games or not. You can also show the history here. This is your full team history. Your offensive, defensive, opponent history, what you've done against them. Your leaderboards, nothing's qualified because we haven't started. Records, nothing's qualified. Nothing's going to qualify until we really get into the series. History is basically all of that. Year in review is the same thing. When it comes to it, nothing's really done until we get to the time that we start the thing. Manage. This is your main way of acquiring players or evaluating players. Manage team is, again, this little pencil right here. We go here. That's pencil. That's going to get you to your manage team. This is, again, as I said, your front office. Find player is your free agents, so you can search through any free agent you want by any sort of attribute. Say, for example, I want a good running back who can run well. We can sort to running backs, and let's say I want hole recognition because that's what the thing that controls how good you're able to find the best path rushing yards. I can see Salvon Ahmed is good at hole recognition. I can sign him if I'd like. Top free agents, that will show you basically a ranking of all the top free agents when the free agency starts. Obviously, we're not in free agency at the start of the season. We'll get that when it is. This also shows basically all the things that or contracts that you've assigned during free agency. Won't see that as well. These are a bunch of future free agents. So you can see that these grades, basically, if they don't get re-signed by their teams, they'll show up here on top free agents. Salary cap shows you how much available cap space you have. Like we have no dead cap when it comes to it, and we have 135 million in salaries, even though our roster is bad. So you can see we have a decent amount of cap room. Not great, not bad. Trade HQ is a space where you can set up a bunch of trades. You can trade for picks. Like, for example, if I want to trade for the Pioneers, the Cardinals, first overall pick, I can trade for that if I want to. If I want to trade, I don't know, a Quanawoo to them, or let's say if I want to trade a Quanawoo, I'm not going to. You can just drag him right down here. See the offers you can see. So you can see like Kansas City may want him. Or receive the offer. Nope, they can't interest, but they can't offer enough. Probably because he's a 95 offensive tackle and he'd be worth a bunch of picks. Let's put Mingo in, for example. Let's see what Dallas would give for Mingo. Second round pick, which hey, we'll take that all said and done. Yeah, and then draft over here. Again, that's trades. We might be using a decent amount with how bad this roster is. Draft, we're gonna be doing drafts hopefully in the future. This is basically the full 7th round list. This will show you every single draft pick. Obviously, don't know because the season hasn't started. This will show you the full draft class, which starts before free agency is fully announced, mocks, and then draft history as well. Basically, this bar right here basically corresponds to these bars over here as well. So we can see right here, this gets you to the draft, this little shopping cart. This gets you to player search, find a free agent. This gets you to your manage team office. This is your schedule button. This is your depth charts, so it really depends on if you prefer top up or on the side. These are more quick actions. Like this gets you to your roster little play chart. The flag gets you to your team overview. This gets you your statistics of the individual career and team that you can see. This is the basic overview of everyone's schedule and every single game of the week. So these, like, if you just look through the tabs, work through it, there's like standings you can see here. There's a full almanac of every single player. There's team that you can see here. There's full coaching things that eventually we'll get once coaches start winning games. There's trends you can see. It's a very in-depth game that becomes overwhelming if you make it overwhelming. That's really why I recommend setting these, so it takes a little bit of that onus off of you. There's also important to know that there are drop-down tabs here that also correlate basically to what your tabs over here are. So let's say, for example, go to the strategy setting and we go to weight training. That is just this tab right here. So if I go to team overview, strategy, weight, that is the same as doing boom, 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 So again, all these tabs play into each other. There's just a lot of UI overload that you can really work through. All said and done, I think it's going to bring the first episode to a close. We'll probably go into a little bit more about how the league overview is, checking out the weather map, the metro areas. As the preseason goes on, if people want to learn more, there's a full college report, But I am really enjoy you for joining me in this video. In the next episode, we'll probably be taking a peek into the preseason and probably do the full season as well, because you can really run through a season in this game. And I hope people enjoy, again, Front Office Football 9 with the Carolina Hellcats or the Carolina Panthers. Again, thank you and have a great day.